about CBD, first we have to talk about cannabis. And I have a little cannabis plant here, sort of, that was made for me by an artist here in Las Vegas. But let me just tell you why a dietitian is up here talking to you about cannabis and CBD. I did more traditional work of a dietitian. I was a cookbook author, food blogger, podcaster, and then 3 years ago, my dad suffered from severe pain, and all of the pain medications that they gave him bad side effects, constipation, grogginess. So finally I said to his doctor, what about medical marijuana? And his doctor said, I think that's a great idea. And I thought, great, I don't know anything about this, so I need to do a little research. So I did some research, and the more I learned, the more I thought, why don't we recommend this to people when they have pain? So I decided to leave my job, go back to school, and become a holistic cannabis practitioner so that I can help other people who suffer from things like pain and anxiety and insomnia, muscle spasms, GI issues, etc., using cannabis and in particular CBD. So the term wake and bake for the bakers in this crowd is a little different than what some cannabis users might use to describe wake and bake. So let's talk about cannabis, because to talk about CBD, we need to talk about cannabis and hemp. So cannabis has been used. Cannabis is the correct term for marijuana. Marijuana is more of a slang term for cannabis. So cannabis has been used for thousands of years medicinally, which I knew nothing about. It was used in Chinese medicine. Queen Victoria used cannabis to treat her menstrual cramps. It was a very well-accepted medicine. It was in the Pharmacopoeia, which is the book that doctors use to look at to see dosing of medications. From 1850 until 1942, when doctors traveled around in the 1800s, they had a medical kit, and they had willow bark, and they had cannabis. And in the Pharmacopoeia, many of the medications were derived from cannabis. And then in the early 1900s, cannabis became vilified for no reason of science or medicine. It was more political and racial, which I will not get into now. But now, all of a sudden, cannabis was a bad thing. It was removed from the Pharmacopoeia, and then in 1970, it was classified as a Schedule I substance, which means no medical benefit and a high potential for abuse, both of which are untrue when it comes to cannabis. In 1999, the Institute of Medicine came out and said that cannabis is highly useful for nausea, pain, anxiety, and appetite loss. The U.S. government, in 1999, scientists at the National Institutes of Health were doing research into what might help with these neurodegenerative diseases, and they found that cannabinoids from the cannabis plant were the most promising. So they applied for and were granted a patent in 2003. So scientists know that cannabis has a lot of medical value. Active components of cannabis. So when we talk about the cannabis plant, so here's my little cannabis plant. Most of the medicine of the plant is in this bud here in the middle. It's called a cola. So you've got a plant, and it would have lots of branches like this. So you've got the medicine, the cannabinoids of the plant are mostly in this bud. There are things like THC, which we are all familiar with. That is the cannabinoid that makes you stoned or high. And in the 60s and 70s, they bred cannabis plants to be high in THC because that's what people wanted. That's why they used cannabis, for recreational to get high. There are all sorts of other cannabinoids. There are over 100 cannabinoids in the plant. CBD is the one we'll be focusing mostly on today, and CBD is non-psychotropic, so it won't make you high. You can eat all the CBD you want and you will not get high. It is not correct to say, however, that it's not psychoactive, because CBD does affect the brain. It's neurocalming, and so it is psychoactive. It's just not psychotropic. We also have CBN, that's good for sleep and relaxation, CBG, CBC. There are all sorts of cannabinoids in the plant. THCA and CBDA are the acid forms. So right here in this plant, if it were real, the cola or the bud would have THCA and CBDA. That's the acid In addition to cannabinoids, there are also terpenes, and that's what gives cannabis the smell. It has a very distinct smell, but each variety of cannabis has a distinct smell, almost like wines. You know, you go and you do a wine tasting, you say, oh, I get notes of oak or shoe leather. Same with cannabis. So if you have a cannabis variety that has limonene, you're going to get that citrusy smell to it. Okay, it's like peeling an orange, you get that really bright citrus smell to it. Myrcene is a good cannabinoid. It's very calming. It's good for sleep. Linalool, if you smell lavender, that smell of lavender, that's due to the linalool, the terpene in the lavender plant. Cannabis also has that. Beta-caryophyllene is found in black pepper. It's good for pain. Pinene is what you would smell if you smelled a pine tree. So there are also flavonoids, antioxidants. I mean, I'm a dietitian. I talk about fruits and vegetables and about all the healthy things in a fruit or a vegetable. Well, this is a plant, and there are a lot of really healthy compounds in the plant. So what's the difference between cannabis and hemp? Who can tell me which one this is? Nobody. Because you can't really tell by looking at it. The only difference is that the hemp plant has less than 0.3% THC. So that's the cannabinoid that makes you high or stoned. Now, I don't want you to think that THC is the bad cannabinoid, because THC has a lot of very important medical benefits. So when people consume medical cannabis, whether it's for pain or anxiety, also MS, people with MS can use cannabis and get decent relief a lot of time. So THC has a lot of very, very important medical value. It's just that if you take too much of it, it will be mind-altering, if you will. So the hemp plant has very little THC. That's the difference. And also, hemp is legal federally, according to the 2018 Farm Bill. Hemp is legal to grow and to process, and legally, cannabis is federally illegal. It's legal here in Nevada, it's legal in Massachusetts, where I live, California, Oregon. It's legal in 34 states medicinally, and it's legal in, I believe it's 11 or 12 now, what they call recreationally, which I call adult use. Okay, so CBD may treat these conditions. It works for a lot of people to provide relief. It does not work for 100% of the people for 100% of these issues. I have clients that have seen life-changing improvements in their pain and their irritable bowel and their anxiety, and others that see just a little bit of relief. So it really depends. If I had 2 hours, I could get into the endocannabinoid system and how we all have this system and that it's set up to receive cannabinoids, whether you get them from the plant. We also make 2 on our own. We make 2 cannabinoids in our bodies on our own. We always have. Anandamide is one that was discovered in 1992, and that's dubbed the bliss molecule. So if you make a lot of anandamide, you tend to have less anxiety and depression. Concussion, this is very, very important for traumatic brain injuries and concussion. I'm from Boston. You guys might know Rob Gronkowski. He's a football player. So he just came out with a big press conference a couple of weeks ago that he's partnering with a CBD company because he found that that's what helped him recover through his injuries playing football. I honestly believe that athletes, soccer players, football players, boxers should be required to use CBD because our U.S. government has a patent on CBD as a neuroprotectant, so they know it's good. So I don't understand why that's not a requirement. I think once people really learn about it and see and look at the research, I've had probably 6 clients this year with concussions. One is a 15-year-old boy whose mom came to me and said he had a concussion a month ago. He still has double vision. He has headaches, blurry vision, and he started taking CBD, and 4 days later she called me and she said he has no more double vision. His headaches are gone. So very, very important. autism. They've done research and shown that some kids with autism have 80% less anandamide, which is this cannabinoid that we make in our own body, than kids who don't. Inflammation is one of the biggest things that CBD does for everybody. And a lot of our chronic diseases have an inflammatory component to them, so it helps to quell inflammation. Migraines, acne. My daughter was 27. She was horrified when I told her I was doing this in my career, that I was going from being a cookbook author to a cannabis practitioner, because she's kind of straight-laced like her mother. And I said, but you saw what it did for Grandpa. And so she was like, all right. And then a few months later, she read the New York Times and read about how all the models are using CBD on their feet, and it's a beauty product, and it's good for acne. So she contacted me and said, can you hook me up, Mom? I'm like, okay, now you get it. Opioid addiction, this is really important. We lose so many people from opioid addiction and overdose. No one in the history of mankind has ever died from an overdose of cannabis. So it doesn't affect your respiratory system, and it actually helps people get off opioids, because you can replace some of your opioids with cannabis or CBD, lower your dose, decreasing your risk of overdose. So what do you look for when you're buying CBD? The problem is that the FDA did a study and found that 70% of the CBD products online available today are mislabeled, and many of them had zero CBD. And the reason for that is to create a high-quality CBD product is expensive. You have to grow the plant, preferably organically, because cannabis and hemp are bioaccumulator plants, which means that they draw toxins out of the soil. So I personally think that buying organic cannabis and hemp is important. So it's expensive to grow it, to harvest it, to process it, to extract the good cannabinoids, and to make decent products. So you've got some bad guys out there who are saying, if I can get $100 for a bottle of oil, I'm going to put some hemp seed or some grape seed oil or something in there and call it CBD oil. So you have to do your homework when you buy CBD products. You want a whole plant or broad spectrum or full spectrum product, because CBD is very, very powerful medicine, but the real power is in the whole plant. So you don't just want a CBD molecule, a CBD isolate it's called, because, it's good, but it's like, as a dietitian, I say, Steve, broccoli is good for you. I'm just going to give you a vitamin A capsule, because that's not it. You want as much of the plant as possible. You want those terpenes that I talked about. You want the antioxidants. So you want a product that has all the different cannabinoids and the other components of the plant in it. You want to ask for independent lab testing, so that these products that say, oh, we've got 20 milligrams of CBD in here, you can just say, can you show me your independent lab results? And if they say no, then don't buy it. It's that simple. You don't want to buy your CBD at a gas station or a smoke shop or a convenience store, because chances are the quality is not there. You should work with someone who knows what they're talking about. There aren't all that many people, I'm going to give you that, especially physicians, doctors. Most of them know very little about cannabis and CBD. Most dietitians know very little. Most health professionals, because this is all relatively new for us. Since it was vilified for so many decades, we weren't trained in it. Doctors weren't, dietitians weren't. So it's important that you find someone who's done a little bit of research and can guide you. Okay, so cooking with CBD or cooking with cannabis, you can't just take this and crumble it up and add it to a brownie mix. It's a little more complicated than that. So what you'll do is you have to first activate. I told you that when you smoke cannabis, the heat actually activates and brings the cannabinoids to life. So if you're going to cook with it, you need to, it's called decarboxylation. So you need to take these buds, and you need to put them on a cookie sheet lined with parchment. You put them in the oven at about 230 to 30 minutes, and it will activate the cannabinoids. It will stink up your kitchen if you do this at home. I'm just telling you this. I did it once, and my neighbors were like, what are you doing over there? It's pretty stinky. So you have to do that, and then you have to take that product and you have to infuse the oil that you're going to be baking with. So if you're going to be using either butter or oil in your baking, you need to extract the cannabinoids from that plant matter, and then you use your infused oil in your cooking. You can buy a commercial CBD oil to do that as well, but that's how you would do it if you were making your own. So this is, I have a pointer here, but let's see. Over on the left is the decarboxylated cannabis, so it starts out green, and then when you cook it low and slow to activate it, it turns a little brown, and then you grind it up, and you can either put it in a, now there are so many recipes online that you can find. Leafly.com is a good website, has a lot of great information, but you can put it in a slow cooker. This is a machine that I have that actually extracts the cannabinoids into an oil. You can do it in a slow cooker, you can do it in a double boiler, and then you drain the plant material and you're left with an oil that has these cannabinoids in it. So there is a big increase in public interest in CBD edibles. Right now, it is illegal to put into interstate commerce any products that have CBD in them. In fact, Washington State just 2 weeks ago said no CBD products, no food products with CBD. They were selling them. I've been to Washington State. My sister lives there. We went to a dispensary to see what was there. They had all sorts of CBD products. No more. They say the FDA is going to come out with regulations. We do not know when. It might be in 2 months. It might be in a year. I hope they hurry up, because we do need some regulations just to make sure that what the products that are out there are high quality. But for right now, it is illegal. And so I wanted to save plenty of time for questions about anything about CBD or cannabis or whatever you'd like to ask.